anything in and around the water inherently becomes a little bit more risky just because of the nature of you have things that could go wrong up here and you have things that could go wrong down there. Now you add any type of variable to that, which is the sea state, the swell, the current, the ability to see, or even the weather. You know, those are all factors that turn a seemingly simple scenario into a very, very dynamic one quickly.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and/or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have? What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend?
Is there anything I could do?
Welcome back to another episode of Dangerous Questions, guys. And we're going to talk about a subject that I feel like doesn't get enough attention, and that's fighting in and around the water. It's something we probably think about. It's something we probably did growing up, or, you know, the next time we're going to have a pool party, you know, a bunch of guys wrestling in the pool, or, you know, playing around with your boy, or whatever the case may be. But it's something that is relevant. It does matter, and it adds a whole nother dynamic to what fighting is. There's a couple different elements here, but ultimately what we're talking about is waterborne type questions, and also things that are going to come out of that. And some of this a subject that I always trained with and thought about quite a bit throughout my career, but it just there's not much information out there on it. So let's just hit a couple of these questions. This is Dangerous Questions, an IRONCLAD original. Let's get right to the first question. How do tactics and strategies change when engaging in combat in a water environment compared to on land? How do you maintain stealth while approaching a target by water? Okay, so the approaching a target by water, you know, let's break down the first part of the question, and that's how do tactics change? And that's that everything changes. Every strategy, every tactic is going to change because the dynamic and the unknowns and the variable that water adds. That's why SEALs are so effective in their training selection, because of the fact that they're adding that dynamic to their pipelines. And it just adds a variable that you cannot recreate anywhere else but without water. You know, there's a certain level of fortitude, calm, resiliency that must be applied and or quickly learned, or you're gonna funnel out. You're gonna end up, you know, just quitting or not passing whatever needs to be passed because of that dynamic of water. You know, there's a part of that I love about the water because it does add that challenge at every turn. You know, we're not just talking about fighting or grappling or doing anything, but anything in and around the water inherently becomes a little bit more risky just because of the nature of you have things that could go wrong up here and you have things that could go wrong down there. Now you add any type of variable to that, which is the sea state, the swell, the current, the ability to see, or even the weather. You know, those are all factors that turn a seemingly simple scenario into a very, very dynamic one quickly. So I think that you just need to approach things from a standpoint of knowing that anytime you're putting yourself into a tactical scenario out on the water, it's really dynamic. That's why anytime I dive, I free dive, I do anything in and around the water, I take it seriously. And I always brief everybody around like, hey, we're gonna go have fun, but don't get complacent. This is not the right environment to get complacent, to go out and mix anything else other than the fact of complete focus to what you're doing at hand. I think that that's why it's easy to refine yourself out on the water, and a lot of watermen know this, especially guys like surfers that have to deal with some serious undertow, swell, and get into situations where their board's trying to take their head off and they're getting plunged down into the bottom of the ocean. It can get really serious and life-threatening pretty fast, and it builds up a strength and resiliency in you and a will to fight. You know, Laird Hamilton is one of the guys that has been in so many different situations, and he knows this, which is why he trains for it ahead of time. So what water does at least is it awakens you to realize that, man, I got to be prepared for this. If you ever tried to go surf for the first time and you try to paddle through some decent sized surf, you either realize how in shape you are or how out of shape you are and how different it is. You know, fighting's different, swimming through the surf is different. There's just nothing else that can really replace that. And when you realize that you're going to do something in and around that, you've got to be prepared and training for it. As far as the stealth question, I mean, that's more of a tactical SOP type question. And I think the bottom line is just immersing yourself in that environment and knowing that it's a dynamic that not a lot of people use. Not a lot of people think about, okay, I'm going to throw myself into this cold, wet, sandy, unpredictable, treacherous environment and be able to, you know, go do something else afterwards. I think a lot of people don't think like that. So it's a rare thing that's going to happen. You know, out of the entire world, you know, who's going through the deep, dark ocean to get to somewhere where they want to go? Nobody. So when it happens, it's a surprise. Thank you, Mountain Tough, for sponsoring this episode. If you guys are looking to get in elite shape and great physical condition and boost your overall fitness, you can do it with the Mountain Tough digital training programs. Right now, it's free for 14 days. You can train anywhere you travel with minimal equipment, whether it's in the gym, outdoors, or even at your house. Their app offers expert, progressive plans to build strength, endurance, and resiliency to prevent injury and burnout. They have follow-along coaching videos that will keep you fired up and motivated at every level. Designed for mountain athletes, hunters, tactical professionals, and outdoor adventurers everywhere. Mountain Tough is led by elite athletes and military veterans. You can start your free trial today and use the code DANGEROUS at checkout for 40% off your annual subscription. These guys are locked on when it comes to elite physical fitness, and it starts from the ground up. Go check them out. Next question. Again, these are all, you know, water-related questions, which came up through asking guys out there. They were excited about talking about these things. Have you ever used or known of anyone who has used water confidence skills you learn in BUDS, in doc, or any type of training, such as drown proofing or buddy breathing in real life? 100%. I've seen buddy breathing happen in real life. That is something that, you know, whether it's scuba or on an operation, that is absolutely necessary. You know, your equipment goes faulty, somebody has something go wrong with their hose systems, it gets caught up, it comes undone. Buddy breathing is absolutely an essential part of it. As far as drown proofing, I mean, I've seen so many different scenarios where it helped for guys to stay calm, you know, where we were doing something over the beach and we had a tremendous amount of swell, and the boats and the swell were bouncing all over the place. I mean, it was like one wrong move, 1/2 a foot the wrong way, that was it. The boat was going to take your head off. I mean, these are like 8 or 9 foot swells. And so getting your butt handed to you like that, swimming through that, and then having to find and link up with a boat is like, I mean, it was probably one of the most dynamic things that I ever did. And if I had made one wrong move, that boat was going to come right on top of any one of us. Even staying with your partner in those things of really working through, you know, you're going through a really hard surf. I mean, think about being a surfer. You know, if you're going through the same thing and you're trying to maintain a good distance to your buddy, you have a swim buddy that you can't leave. Well, now you have the dynamic of having the sacrifice of like, okay, I'm getting ready to swim through the surf. If we don't do it together and our timing is off and we don't stay together, we're going to get ripped apart. So now you have to put out extra to make sure you stay with your buddy. Even if you're like 5 or 6 feet apart, you're both trying to push through, you're both trying to get through that surf. And that was a real scenario that just knowing how to stay calm, being in good physical shape, having the dynamic skills and the awareness, you know, through 9 foot swells, you're looking for your buddy and trying to figure out where he's at, and then do a proper link up and then find the boat. I mean, it was like, and at night, by the way, this was all extremely dynamic. And it just goes to show you that, you know, you have got to be prepared. You have got to push yourself in training, because when it gets to that point, it's like all of those fine-tuned skills come to fruition in moments like that. You know, your will to fight, your ability to engage, your ability to kick a little bit harder at the right time with everything you've got. And then, you know, you're on the brink of exhaustion because of how much you have to put out, and then trying to climb up into the boat after that. I mean, it's no joke. I mean, there's scenarios like that again and again and again that guys can account for, but it comes down to putting ourselves through the pressure of everything you just asked, buds, in-dock, training, whatever. Even like really high-level scuba divers that I know that go out and train on their own. They go push themselves on their own because they know the time under tension, the time exposing themselves to that element could be what makes the difference in a dark, unknown environment where they're wrapped up, upside down and backwards, mask is flown off, and they're trying to figure out how to save their own life. You know, this is just always going back to training. Even in our last episode, we talked about that as well. All right, next question. What are some prerequisites to attend dive master or instructor courses? Okay, so not sure exactly which course you're talking about, you know, in the military, out of the military, but either way, it's important because you're now taking responsibility for other people's lives, right? Any type of waterborne scenario, you should always have a swim buddy, right? We should always have somebody that's my accountability partner to check gear, to watch my six, and to have my back in should anything go wrong in that extremely dynamic environment. So now you're looking to level that up. So when you talk about prerequisites, first of all, there's a serious level of responsibility that has to be accepted, to the fact that if you want to go lead as a dive master and you want to go lead as an instructor, you are taking the lives of others in your own hand. I mean, I've heard some instructors say some really, really dumb things, not in the military, outside of the military. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're talking about our lives here. You're putting out bad information. These people are listening to you. And I've had to challenge people, you know, in the middle of a course to be like, nope, that's wrong. And whether it's curriculum-based or personality-based, and most of the time these curriculums are good, you know, whether it's SSI, PADI, NAUI, you know, all these other elements that are out there, there's some great information that we can gain, but there are some individual opinions that can vary, and I think that that's something to be attentive for, no matter who you're going to train with. But the idea of accepting responsibility, if you want to go be a dive master or an instructor, or any instructor for anything, right? Teachers are always going to be held more responsible. That's even biblical, right? If we're going to accept that responsibility, the punishment and the roles that we take are going to be way bigger than anything else that anybody else is doing as a student. The other thing is attention to detail. Our ability to really have an OCD level of detail in everything, from gear to attitude to character to assessing people's procedures. If you can't intuitively see that, then don't even bother becoming an instructor. But if you're already getting ahead and you're able to predictively think about what people are doing in water, for example, as somebody that's trained, I can see bad things unfolding before they even do. I'm like, oh, that person's having a little bit of a difficult with their regulator. They're having a hard time. They're kind of struggling. They're probably going to end up in a bad scenario if they become challenged, right? And then all of a sudden their mask gets flicked a little bit, and they're like, wait a minute, where's my regulator? I'm like, okay, I saw that happening way before it even started. Here you go. Let me help you out. Here's your thing. Calm down, you know, and get them squared away again. So you kind of have to have the ability to assess those things early and often, and be very, very, very detail-oriented. I mean, the first prerequisite is the fact that you want to do it. The fact that you want to lean into it, you want to grow, you want to educate yourself, and you want to grow in that wisdom and experience. You know, the best instructors and dive masters in the world have an extreme amount of experience. They can probably tell you off the top of their head 10 different scenarios where they've had to either help somebody or save their lives over and over and over again. Why? Because the water environment is very dynamic. There's usually something that happens, but it's nothing that can't be handled with a level of experience and a cool, calm attitude. Hey, no big deal. Regulator get kicked out of your mouth, mask is off, gear's all jacked up. No worries. Come over here, stay calm. Here's my regulator, you know, and you can work through a lot of this stuff. And again, this is a very scuba-oriented, you know, mindset. A lot of people, I think, can relate to that. But just to put yourself in the right mindset, thinking about going out there and taking that role or responsibility. You know, I think that's the same exact thing for being in the military. It's no different. You know, it's a qualification that allows you to take on more responsibility and take care of the guys under you. You know, you get a new guy come up, he's got his gear all jacked up, and you're like, dude, you know, we're going to not only just dive, we're going to dive at night in a dynamic environment with stuff moving around all over the place. And we got to be able to do our job with precision every detail matters. So great question. Hopefully you guys can apply that to any type of learning.
Hey guys, this is Bear Hanlon, co-founder of Born Primitive, and I just wanted to let you know about a big campaign we are doing to give back to veterans this Veterans Day weekend. A couple months ago, we wrote a check to pay off $2.5 million of veteran medical bill debt. And we need your help because we want to get that number to 5 million by Monday night, which is Veterans Day. So we will be pledging 100% of profits from our site, bornprimitive.com, to accomplish that goal. So with this Veterans Day campaign, we also launched our brand new Freedom Capsule, which is 2 brand new colorways of our Savage One training shoe that pay homage to the American Revolution and the founding values of our republic. The first one is our Betsy Ross edition. It's a classic red, white, and blue shoe that has the Betsy Ross flag as well as We the People on the inner heel. We also have the Don't Tread on Me edition. This is a black and yellow design with the Gadsden snake on the inner heel. For those that don't know, the Gadsden snake was flown in the first ever naval battle. So one of the things that we did to bring this capsule to life was we created these limited number of mahogany wooden boxes that contain additional components that tie back to the American Revolution. So we have our founding documents, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. We also have inlaid, this is oak from the USS Constitution, which is our first ever naval warship. And of course, the flintlock pistol, which is symbolic of the weaponry used at the time, particularly early on in the naval battles. And inlaid with that, we have the Betsy Ross flag etched into the wood, as well as the Gadsden snake etched into the wood. Overall, just a beautiful piece that ties back to those founding values of our country. On our site, we have something for everyone. We have fitness apparel, hunting apparel, tactical, jeans, flannels, you name it, we have it. So if this is a cause you want to get behind and you want to support veterans, head to bornprimitive.com. November 8th through the 11th, we will pledge every penny of profit in hopes of paying off $5 million of veteran medical bill debt. We hope you'll be a part of it. Thank you for joining the cause.
So we're so excited to launch this new piece for the Navy SEAL Foundation. We're titling it I Am. This piece plays out all the aspects that go unseen inside of the life of a team guy, the life of a family member. Everything we do for the foundation, we want it to do justice to the cause and for the community. So we want authenticity and we want it to make a difference. So we hope you get that from this. We're so excited to launch it.
All right, next question. If you were to infiltrate a target from the water, again, you guys always pressing me with these uncomfortable questions, these dangerous questions. Are you literally soaked going into the mission, or would there generally be time to get yourself together? Wouldn't that be nice? I always found it insane that you just go straight from the surf to directly into a combat or rescue situation. Again, you got to think about this from context. You know, what's the scenario that we're going into? I mean, is there a little kiosk and a little hut that we get to go and dry ourselves off and put our clothes in a bag and, you know, get everything nice and neat? Like, no, that doesn't happen. I will tell you that it's a very immersive experience. And yes, realistically immersive as well. But everything, you're just in tune with your environment when you're doing that type of work. And you're just a part of the environment completely. It's something that you don't even really think of. And I think that there's a level of excellence that comes out of that, knowing that none of this can hold me back. You know, a pebble in my shoe or any little thing that throws me off, it does not matter. What matters is I need to go here. You know, I think that that's the key thing to take out of that, without getting too tactical and, talking about, what the guys actually do. I think it's important to just understand it's an immersive experience. Go do it on your own. Go at night, go find some place that nobody's out there, have a swim buddy, obviously, but then walk through the surf and kind of just get an idea of what it would feel like to go up through the dunes and, go into wherever house you're going to. That's just a level that you might be able to experience for yourself. All right, so that wraps up the questions. Now, I started this off with saying fighting, waterborne fighting, shallow water grappling. This is something you just don't see a lot of. And we actually tried to find some scenarios that we could break down. And of course, we have to play a clip from the movie Navy SEALs because it's a classic. You know, Hollywood plays a part here, but we've got to play that just because it's cool. I couldn't find much out there with somebody actually getting in a fight and being in water. Does it happen? It happens all the time. And the one thing that I'll tell you is that if you're really good at fighting and you're really good at the water, you can do both of those well. But putting them together is different. And it adds an element of fortitude and forges you in a way that not a lot of other things are going to do. You know, the guys from Underwater Torpedo League, you know, I'm always impressed and kind of intrigued by how they perform, what they do. Those guys are crawling over each other to try to get this little torpedo in a net in the water. It's like water polo mixed with underwater soccer. I mean, it's awesome sport, extremely dynamic. But if you're going to fight in the water, but you can't stay calm in the water, like you have your work cut out for you. And if you're going to do anything combined in that nature, I think it's important to realize like there are some dynamics at play that, look, if I get taken under the water and I'm really in a fight, like it really is important to stay just as calm as I would as if I was free diving. But how do you do that while you're fighting? Now you're tapping into another layer of what we're capable of being like, oh, I still have to manipulate somebody, use as little strength as possible, keep my calm, and be able to manipulate this person. I had a really strong passion for putting these two things together when I was still working with a lot of active duty guys. And there is an element to this that's real, and I really get excited about. But there's just not much out there to show you guys. So we're gonna show you a little clip from guys in the Marines, guys that take this stuff, you know, shallow water grappling. You know, you can just see that it adds an element to it. Like, oh, if I get my face shoved in the sand and mud and the water, I'm going to have to do things a little differently. I can't just sit there and stare at the ground. I've got to move and get to my feet or get to my knees or get off my back at least. So we'll play some of that, and then we'll also watch this scene at the end. So let's watch this first one. All right, so you see these guys. I mean, they're just getting reps in, but it immediately adds a dynamic in this environment where they have to think about this, and they're only in 6 inches of water, right? But you can't just position yourself anymore. It's a variable in your environment. And I think it's awesome. You know, clearly this is not something you should do with no training. Clearly this is not something you should do without good coaching and instruction, because this is very dynamic. You can see they got a guy over them right away. So if somebody were to end up in a scenario where they were to start drowning, you could get help immediately. But it's just to expose what these guys are doing to add that dynamic. Like, hey, how do we switch things up? Well, we fight all the time. We go in the water all the time. Let's put them together. Sounds like a party. I just appreciate this level of training with these guys. So you guys can get a quick view in some of the training that is going on. And it's just a glimpse, but it does open your aperture a little bit on what's possible. And again, you can just watch, you know, I think there's a couple scenarios here where the guy's head goes under. It's like when you're already fighting and you're already on the bottom, it's like, okay, if you don't have any training, most guys' response is to freak out, right? But now you have somebody fighting and you can't freak out, but you still have to maintain your strength. Back to the dynamic that I spoke about earlier. Okay, cool. So we got to watch some reps of that, and it's just cool to watch if you haven't seen that before. Now let's get into one of the, I mean, I say the best scene, right? The movie Navy SEALs is a classic. I grew up watching it. But this is a cool scene, at least just to have fun with as we wrap up this scenario. But these guys are hanging out, pulling a dead body out, and there comes Charlie Sheen with this classic move, an ambush, grenade in the boat. But then this is the scene that goes on in the water where I think the best part of this is that he has fins on. So if you had fins and you were going against a guy that did not have fins, you have a complete advantage around manipulating your body and being able to move. So if you understand jiu-jitsu and grappling, well, a little bit of stability on my leg is going to help me twist and move in ways that the other guy cannot, because he's got nothing to grab onto, and neither do you. So it adds a little bit of stability on your hips and it gives you more mobility. And he's just using the advantage of like, look, you know, classic Navy SEAL move, going underwater, right? You assume that we all know how to hold our breath to an nth degree, and you know, to a certain extent that's true. You know, now he's fighting this guy underwater. Let the guy freak out. If I'm fighting a guy underwater, I'm going to let you freak out. And the one thing that he probably waited a little bit long on, I think, is choke the guy out. If you're truly underwater and you're still staying calm, I'm going to try to find a blood choke on a guy so he's out. You know, and I actually had a couple of scenarios overseas, where, of course, it wasn't as fancy as this, but I did think about having to go to that level of intensity in the water. You know, it was a very real thing that I was having to visualize, like, oh, this might actually be a reality. I might actually end up in this scenario. You know, we're around the water a lot, we're around a lot of bad guys a lot, so getting in the water with all your gear on was not out of the realm of possibility. It didn't happen, but I still intently visualized it enough to where, you know, it could have very quickly. That's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as we wrap up Charlie Sheen's scene in the movie Navy SEALs. A little bit of Hollywood in there, but just the dynamic of adding water always is going to be a variable and a dynamic that's going to change everything. I encourage people to free dive, to breathe, to get in the water more. It's only going to make you a better version of yourself no matter what you're doing. I know I love being on the water, even in times where I'm off or on, working or not. It's just a place that's therapeutic. It's a place that heals. It's a place that continues to strengthen. So hopefully you guys can find yourself time on the water and increase that dynamic. Thanks for watching another episode of Dangerous Questions, guys. God bless you. Peace.
What's going on, everybody? I want to let you know about an ongoing effort in Western North Carolina to help victims of Hurricane Helene and how you can help our friends at the Sentinel Foundation. The hurricane has displaced people around the region and destroyed countless homes. However, Sentinel is on the ground helping. They've been actively getting critical supplies to residents in some of the area's most isolated locations. They've been able to provide over 60 Starlink systems to fire departments, police departments, and churches so that they can communicate and coordinate for their communities. They've also organized both aircraft and ground units to transport and deliver donations. So far, they've accepted and organized an estimated 7 million pounds of materials and distributed about 4 million pounds to support the ongoing relief efforts. Sentinel has also continued to monitor reports of child trafficking, exploitation within the area of operation through law enforcement. To find out more about their efforts to help hurricane victims and their anti-child exploitation efforts, and to see how you can help, please check out foundationsentinel.org.
So we're so excited to launch this new piece for the Navy SEAL Foundation. We're titling it I Am. And the reason why we came up with that title is because we wanted to show who the warrior is. If you know the SEAL ethos, it says, I am that warrior. And so we want to show that warrior through the progression of his life and his family. And we want to draw parallels and call us all to action to be that warrior, that man, that woman, that child, that person making a difference in our community, to follow in the footsteps of these men and women that show us how to live in the NSW community. We're filming at Camp Pendleton here in Virginia Beach. It's a big deal because it is a government installation and because it mirrors so many of the things that so many servicemen and women go through.
ORP here, ISO here, containment here, and primary entry point here.
This piece plays out all the aspects that go unseen inside of the life of a team guy, the life of a family member. It takes a journey from buds all the way into full-fledged dad, operator mode, and all the things that happen. It's very powerful at times, it's very hard-hitting at times. Another really special aspect about this project is it features a Ray Charles song, America the Beautiful. The reason why we selected that song is, like we were talking about, man, what do people not recognize? You know, the repeated explosions, the repeated deployments back and forth, coming home after you just lost your buddy and then seeing your kids that are excited to see you, tucking them in right after that, still training, still learning, you growing, all of these things. And as we were playing out this storyboard in our head, we just kept hearing that song. And we reached out to the Ray Charles Foundation, and for the Navy SEAL Foundation, they made it happen. So it's a very rare song that's being used. It's a really great piece for it to be used on. Everything we do for the foundation, we want it to do justice to the cause and for the community. So we want authenticity, and we want it to make a difference. So we hope you get that from this. We're so excited to launch it.